premarital also addresses one important thing.
Mm-hmm.
Am I ready to get married? Because you can desire to get married, but you're not ready to get married.
Okay.
And do I have a complete and accurate understanding of marriage, not just being with somebody,
Yeah.
marriage. And then thirdly, am I ready to get married to this person? Because the first two can be okay, but you're not compatible with this other person.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Everything Young and More. Today, we got some fire. I know I always tell you guys that every time, but today, we got some fire. We're talking about marriage. First of all, before we get into that, let me tell you what this podcast is about. This is a podcast where we bridge the gap between the older generation and the young generation. And we've been having some young people come on the podcast, you know what I mean? But now it's time for the older guys to come in here, talk to us. People who have experience, you know what I mean? Come here and talk to us and let us know what it's about, right? So today we have none other than, I'm going to let them introduce themselves. But before that, let me tell you what they do. Let me tell you a little bit about this person is a marital coach, an author. That means he has books, yeah? You know how long it takes to write books. If you don't, you're going to find out. He's a relationship expert. He's a pastor, a husband. Hey, I need a break. He is Dr. Love. Welcome, Tonny Gobanga.
Thank you for having me. You make me look so old when you say that, the older generation. Come on.
No. I mean,
Come
wisdom.
On. No. I'm not that old. Got a few years, but you're taking game out of my.
No. Oh, man. Welcome. It's a pleasure to have you, by the way.
Thank you.
I know you're loaded. Just tell us a little bit about yourself, so at least we know who you are.
Yeah, like I said, like you've rightly put it, I'm married to Terry Gobanga, and we have two girls. We live in Dallas, Texas. I'm a pastor. I used to pastor way back in Kenya, but right now I'm not actively shepherding a church. So I'm a coach. I'm an expert in relationships, and I primarily focus on marriage and basically just trying to help people navigate the murky waters of life and marriage. And so by doing that, I give people therapy, counsel, and I also coach them. And I write books. I love writing. I do a lot of engagement on social media. Yeah, primarily that's what I do.
That's dope, man. There's some people who are going to watch this video and be like, what school did that guy go to? Why should he be telling us things? You know what I mean? So do you mind telling us why you're an expert in your field?
Well, I'm an expert.
Yeah.
Number one, I've been married for the last 15 years. And right before even I got married, I was also giving people counsel when it comes to relationships. I'd actually counseled two couples before I got married. And I was wondering why should what gives me the moral authority to counsel people, and yet I'm not even married? But I remember my mentor one time told me that the fact that these people have come to you, they've seen something that is unique, something that is dope, or something that is real within you. So you tell them what you know about the Bible. And so that is how my journey began. And then early in my marriage, my first year of marriage was not that good because I got married to a pastor, and those days I was just Brother Tonny. Yeah, and we were doing a lot of headbutting. I mean, it was crazy. My wife is a choleric, and I have an ego that's twice the size of this studio. You know, so that's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
And so we're headbutting a lot, and honestly, I thought that my wife was the issue. But when I took our problems to God, God turned the mirror on me and told me that I'm selfish and I need to work on myself. And so one of the things that really, really struck out to me when the Lord revealed to me that I'm selfish and I do not know what it means to be a man after God's own heart, what the meaning of the word husband and the meaning of the word love.
Right.
And so it's in engaging with scripture, those early days, and really humbling myself to find out what is the true essence and meaning of marriage that birthed the Beyond I Do and right now Disruptive Marital Solutions, which is encompassed in the Marriage Village. So the journey began 15 years ago.
Wow, 15 years ago. I wasn't even I wasn't even thinking about marriage. I wasn't even. Yeah,
How old were you?
50 years. I think I was like 10, man. I was like 10.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, that's powerful.
Yeah.
I like the honesty so far, because you know what I mean. You sharing that, because that's what we're trying to do on this podcast. Is just keep it 100 with everybody.
It's true, because
you know?
sometimes even on social media, people look at what I write or what I say, or even they look at our relationship and they think that we are perfect. And I remember somebody at one time asking me, "Do you even have conflict with your wife?" I was like, "Yes."
Yeah.
But I don't know. I want to look at it as conflict. We've grown to the place where I look at it as a difference of opinion. Because if two strangers can be in the same setting for a number of months, a number of years, and they've not been in conflict, then one of them or both of them are pretending. Yeah, because if just two siblings growing same father and father, you have differences. How about two strangers?
Yeah.
So conflict is not actually bad. It's good. But it's the way you approach it, the rules of engagement, that actually make it nasty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, man, that sounds a little bit scary, considering that I'm getting married soon. So it's like,
you should be scared.
Say we're not, you know what I mean? We're happy. And then you're telling me the first 2 years the nigga's gonna be, oh man.
It doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah.
If you have been equipped with the tools, and that's why I really, really insist on premarital counseling. If you've been equipped with the tools of proper, sound premarital counseling that is supposed to actually prevent you from getting married, then you will begin, or you should begin, enjoying your marriage from day one.
And what's the importance of premarital counsel? And
premarital counseling is very vital. It's crucial. It's necessary. It's mandatory. It's imperative that everyone goes to premarital counseling, because you can imagine, for you to practice in any field, like let's say medicine, or even become a lawyer, an engineer, whatever it is, to be an expert in that field, you need to go through training.
Yeah.
And so you invest your time and resources.
Right.
Now, the same is true when it comes to marriage. You need to sit under at least some people who've been married, some people who know what it entails to be married, some people who have a healthy experience of marriage, and some people who can equip you with the realities, the intricacies, the nuances about love, marriage, and relationship, and let you know that this is the reality that you're to expect. Because 60 to 65% of marital issues come from the fact that stem from the fact that many people have not been equipped. Because what happens is that when people get engaged, when people are dating and they get engaged, they focus more on the wedding.
Yeah, right.
So you find the lady is thinking about the wedding day, and the guy is thinking about the wedding night. And so when they get married, after the hoopla about the marriage is over, they realize, oh my God, this guy has these issues, this lady is like this. And so failure to address things like your personality differences, your background, because your background plays a huge role in addressing the skeletons that you carry, the things that are unresolved, the childhood traumas, and just getting to know where is this person coming from. And then premarital also addresses one important thing. Am I ready to get married? Because you can desire to get married, but you're not ready to get married. And do I have a complete and accurate understanding of marriage? Not just being with somebody.
Yeah.
Marriage. And then thirdly, am I ready to get married to this person? Because the first two can be okay, but you're not compatible with this other person.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you could actually say that with premarital counseling, I could avoid getting into, you see how people get into marriage and then divorce later?
Correct.
That can be easily fixed with something like a premarital counseling.
In fact, what I tell everybody who comes to my class, I tell them this. If you do everything that I'm going to tell you, if you follow everything that I'm going to tell you, then you should forget about separation or divorce.
Oh, wow.
Because we're going to sit at least for 10, sometimes 11 or 12 classes, 12 sessions rather.
Yeah.
And we're going to go through all the details, beginning with God, the centrality of God in your marriage, personality types and temperaments. We're going to look at communication, which is a huge issue, because many times we communicate with each other the way we communicate with members of the same gender.
Yeah.
Then we're going to speak about the roles of a husband and wife. We'll talk about conflict management, which I call wrestling in love. Then we'll talk about in-laws or outlaws. We'll talk about children, Do we want kids? How many kids? Gender, etc., etc. People ignore discussing that, and they can be a major source of contention. And then we'll talk about matrimony, as in money, matrimony, money issues, finances. One of the leading causes of divorce here in the Western world. And back at home in Kenya, it's number 2, second to infidelity. And then we talk about romantidemics, that is sex, spice, and romance.
I would like to be part of that.
Yes. And then we talk about your skeletons, in skeletons that we are in a closet.
Okay.
Because it's very, very easy to be packaged and look all this glamorous. But what skeletons are you carrying?
Right.
You know, do you have a body count?
Yeah.
I mean, have you been molested? Have you dealt with all these things that we carry? Because this is some of the baggage that we carry into marriage. Yeah. And then you want to dump them on your spouse.
Oh man, that's crazy.
Or some people get married so that they may fix their spouses, or in the hope that their spouses are going to fix them. That's too much work to expect of someone. Yeah.
Wow, man, I like that you're already talking about some of the classes that you do, or the sessions that you do. The question I wanted to ask you is, I've heard that finances are actually one of the leading causes of a divorce. How do you fix that? Like, what do you suggest for people to, and I know you will probably go in depth in your classes, you do that, but if you can just highlight like a little bit, because here we're just trying to help people get some nudges of wisdom. What do you suggest on going about that? Like, how do you go about that?
First and foremost, when you guys get engaged, you need to have complete, open, and total transparency.
As soon as we engage.
Okay. Because you're going to be spending your life with this other person. So what are the liabilities that you have? How much debt do you have? What are the assets? What assets do you have? And how much transparency are you willing to release? Because some people say, you get married to me but not my wallet. Or yes, we're getting married but our finances are going to be separate. And we can go back and forth. I mean, there are various philosophies with this, and some people, it seems to work out, but I don't think it's a healthy way to build a relationship and to have something that is solid. So you need to have complete financial transparency. Be naked with your finances. If I'm willing to sleep with you, at least you should have access to what I'm making and how much debt I'm carrying. And then the rule of the thumb is have a budget.
Okay.
Have a budget, plain and simple. It can be as simple as you want it or as complicated as you want it, but have a budget that both of you are in agreement of.
Okay, and this is before marriage, right?
Okay. What we normally advise is you make a mock budget.
Okay.
This is our projected income when we get married. And then we are thinking of living in a certain neighborhood. This is the rent or the mortgage, blah blah blah, things like that. And then you do allocations, utilities, bills, savings, kids, miscellaneous expenses, allowances. Here's where it becomes. Here's where the rubber meets the road, because then some people want to have unlimited access or unfettered access towards the money parts without accountability.
Okay.
You'll always find that people have different financial personalities. Others are frugal. Others are lavish spenders, impulsive buyers. And so I buy things based on my emotions or based on what's trending. And I'm not thinking about tomorrow. I'm not thinking about what impact this will have on our finances. And so if you have a budget, then look at it and be honest about how you feel, how it makes you feel. And then you get an opportunity to see how your partner thinks about money. Then you can make an informed decision and say, can I live with this person given that this is the attitude towards money? Because money answers all things, but the love of money is the root of all evil. And so in understanding this, what is your money philosophy? What do you believe about money? One person believes about tithing, and probably for you, all the money you make is yours. You don't believe in you.
10%.
Exactly. I can't give 10% to God. So you need to talk about everything, because money is crazy. Money makes people kill each other. Money, and then there's also the case of prenuptial agreement. Do you want to have a prenup? And when you talk about a prenup, for me, it says a lot of things. And Some people will say, well, it's just wisdom to protect your finances.
Yeah.
I'm thinking then we are not. Then don't call it a marriage. Call it
Yeah.
a contract.
Right. Because
Because
like you don't trust the person.
exactly.
100%.
Because if I'm married to you, the meaning of the word marry is actually you are becoming one flesh. Especially if you're a Christian and you believe or you subscribe to the doctrinal edict of marriage. I mean, doctrinal biblical edict of marriage. Then you are becoming one indivisible entity. And so that means your money is my money is our money. It's we are putting money into a pool. We are saving together and planning together for our future.
Yeah.
And so whatever differences we're going to have, because differences are going to come, we are going to solve them amicably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how do you deal with, like, say I am a saver and she's a spender, or vice versa? And how should I be controlling, or should I be like dealing with the money because I'm a saver, or how do we deal with, like, or are we gonna be, first of all, are we gonna be doing like you bring your money, I bring my money? Do you recommend that? And then we kind of allocate to the budget that we've created, and then who should be kind of in charge of that? Like, let's say, like I've said, she's better than than me, but I'm still like I want to be involved. How should we go about that?
I think both of us should leave our egos at the altar and look at the person who is financially more savvy and allow that person to run the money purse.
Okay.
So regardless of who makes more than the other.
Yeah.
So for instance, I could be having a stay-at-home wife and I'm making 6 figures or 7 figures.
Right.
But she's better at handling the money. So I should allow her, we come up with the budget and allow her to disburse the monies.
Okay.
If you know that you're an emotional spender, allow your partner to put you on a short leash.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it's going to help both of you.
Right.
If you do not subject yourself to that, you won't even have money for vacation. You won't have money when you guys retire. You won't have money for emergencies and things like that. So allow the person, if I think the thing that makes us not want to subject ourselves to control is we feel like we'll be the smaller person. But if my wife is better at me, then allow her to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I'm better than my wife, then I should be the one dispersing that money. And if both of us have allowances, then you'll be able to have, that is what you call discretionary income. You can spend it the way you want. And when you have that money that you've put in a pool, then have a limit.
Yeah.
You cannot spend more than $500 without consulting.
Oh, okay.
That way you reduce many fights about money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, I like that. Speaking of that, what are some things that you wish somebody told you before you got married? Like some things you wish you knew.
Oh, yeah. I should have been told that number one, that the greatest monster is self.
Oh, wow.
The greatest monster in marriage is self.
That's crazy because you need self to.
No, it's me.
Yeah.
It's not my spouse who's the problem. When we got married, I thought my wife had the issues. In fact, I thought that I'm all that and much more. I was seeing my wife as the villain here. She needs to be crucified. And she needs to be punished.
Right.
You know,
she's not as tight as with Jesus as you.
No. In fact, I was thinking my wife is a pastor, and she answered me that way. She's not. You know.
Yeah.
So I think I should have been warned and taught and told and trained that the greatest thing that would destroy your marriage is self. Because self is the altar of the ego. It's the direct antithesis of marriage. Self is that place where you exalt yourself above your partner. I want her to understand me first. I want her to know that this is what I like. This is what I want. It's me.
Yeah.
And so when you check that self at the altar of marriage and come in with an expectation of desiring to become more like Christ, so that now you can love from a platform of selflessness, then you've sorted out a lot of problems. One of the greatest statements or pointers that God has revealed to me about love is love that is expecting loves without expecting.
Love that is expecting, loves without expecting.
Yeah, maybe I should now turn and ask you.
Mm-hmm.
This is your podcast, but what does that mean now that you're getting married?
Love
Love that is expecting, loves without expecting. What does that mean?
that is expecting, loves without expecting.
Mhm.
I'm expecting, so I should love without. It's deep, man.
Okay, everybody has needs. You'll pay me for this. You guys pay me for this
Oh
stuff,
yeah,
right?
yeah. You guys do. You guys need to. We'll chip in so we can send them a check.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has inherent needs.
Mm-hmm.
What you need and what you expect.
Mm-hmm.
It's inherent. That's the way you want to be loved.
Right.
Or what Dr. Gary Chapman calls the language of love.
Mm-hmm.
And so those needs, that inherent need is what you expect from your partner.
Mm-hmm.
So you come into the marriage with that expectation, with that hope that they're going to love in a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
But then understand your partner is just a piece of clay, is a
Right.
lump of clay who
Yeah.
lives in a mud house
Yeah.
and who just like you needs a lot of help.
Mm-hmm.
So their very best is going to come at around maybe 70, 80, maybe 90%. There is nobody in this world who can love you the way you want.
Yeah.
And so what I need to do is, first of all, let my partner know this is how I desire to be loved. These are my needs and this is my language of love. And then I need to take all that to the altar, because I know for a fact that they're going to disappoint me. They're not going to meet me 100%. And trust God to love me the way I want, in the sense that I need to tap into the reservoir of God, because God's love is unconditional, it's exceptional, and it's never ending. And with that, now that I've emptied myself of me and I've been full of God, and I know the needs of my partner, I need to begin pouring into my partner as though they will never ever love me.
Okay.
Because one of the greatest lies
Yeah.
within Christian circles is it's easy to love a submissive wife.
Right.
And the women will say it's easy to submit to.
when you're getting love from your husband.
Yeah, that's a lie. The Bible says wives submit to your husbands, and then it turns around and says husbands love your wives.
So it's not on a condition. Like,
No.
Yeah.
You submit out of obedience to God. If you believe in God's word. If you don't believe in God's word, then that's another story.
Yeah.
But if you really believe in God's word, I'm supposed to love my wife regardless of whether she submits or not. Now, this is an impossibility. There's nobody who can do this.
Wow.
And so why would I be telling you, now that you're planning to get married, why
Right.
would I be telling you to love this other lady unconditionally, and yet I know for a fact it's an impossibility?
Yeah. Why?
I'm asking.
Oh.
You're now in class. You're now in
Wow.
class.
We're really okay.
Yeah.
Because we need the marriage to work, or like
No. Try again.
Because God tells me to do that.
Are we live? Maybe you need to ask them. Are we live?
Drop in the
Ask-
comments, man.
Yeah.
I'm sweating. I'm
Yeah.
sweating.
Why?
Because God asks us to do that, right? It requires us to do
He
that.
asks us to do that, but it's an impossibility.
Why
Why would God require you to do something that He knows fully well you cannot achieve?
Did He do the same thing with Jesus? Is that why?
The reason as to why it's an impossibility is the same reason why you need to be going to God every single day and trust Him to empower you, to equip you with the requisite tools to love your partner in that prescribed fashion. So it's a daily thing.
Yeah.
Paul says this in 1 Corinthians 15:31, I die daily. So one of the things we tell couples is you need to go to the cross on a daily basis. You need to go to Calvary when you're dead to self, because you see, God cannot trust you when you're alive.
Yeah.
When you're selfish, you're basically alive. But when you're dead to self.
Yeah.
So when you die to self, then now God says, now you cannot argue with me.
Yeah.
So now, because you are dead in the flesh, now I can entrust you with my love. I can empower you with your with my love. I can equip you. You'll be entrusted, you'll be equipped, and you'll be empowered. With that, now you can go and love your partner.
Yeah.
But remember, it's a daily thing. Even Jesus said, whoever desires to come after me must pick up his cross daily and follow me. So it's a daily thing.
And let me ask you, since
Yeah.
we're on that, you said was it you had an ego before you got married, or you were
Yeah.
selfish? Say I'm like that, and I'm like, man, I love myself so much, like I do, you know, right? Like that, there's nothing that I want to change about me and whatnot, and then now I'm hearing about marriage and I have to die to self. Why would I want to do that? I'm just thinking out loud.
Don't get married.
Oh, because that's
Yeah.
not for you.
If you love yourself too much and
Mm-hmm.
you really feel like you don't want to change and so on, do yourself a favor.
Don't get married.
Just don't get married.
Mm-hmm.
Just buy a cat. Go buy toys. Travel the world. You know, because you see, one thing we need to understand is that not everybody, marriage is not meant for everybody, and marriage does not validate your being. You don't become extra special or extra good. In fact, marriage, according to 1 Corinthians 7:28, those who get married will have many troubles.
What?
So one of the things I tell people in the first class is that marriage is not a good thing. So are you sure you're ready? Because you tell me 52% of all marriages are going to end up in divorce.
That's great. That's a huge number.
You have a car. When you went to buy your car, when you go to the dealership and the salesman tells you, you love this car, okay, but this car has a 50% chance that it will fail. How confident are you driving that car to the dealership?
Not very.
Are you sure?
Hey, 50%.
50%.
That's a high chance. That's 50-50.
Yeah. In other words, 5 times out of 10 times you move out of the driveway, you're going to have an accident, it's going to fail you. You don't buy that car.
No.
So marriage, I would dare say, is the only product in the world that people buy knowing very well it has a 50% chance that it will fail.
So what are the benefits of doing that? Why would I then do it? Like if 50%, and then we've talked about the negative, I have to die to self, which
Yeah.
I'm like, my God, that's a lot. But then what would you say is what are some positives in marriage that I should be looking forward to, or we should be looking forward to?
We need to go back to Eden for us to understand that, the Garden of Eden, and understand the primary reason why God created man. God created man with a purpose, and so with that purpose comes a mandate to fulfill. Man had a mandate to be fruitful and fill the world.
Okay.
He had a mandate to work, till the land, and replenish it. And so with that assignment, he needed a helper. And so understanding that if you get the proper blueprint of marriage in Genesis 1 and Genesis 2, and then build it on to the Song of Songs, build it on to the Gospels and Ephesians 5 and 1 Peter 3, if you build all that counsel and understand this, then marriage you'll have a thriving marriage. I'm not saying you're not going to have problems, but
Right.
you need to understand that marriage, number one, is about fulfilling a purpose. It's about an assignment. It's a mandate. And so if you have a mandate, if you have a calling to fulfill,
Yeah.
and you know very well that if God gives you the right partner, then you're going to go very far. Because if you are going to reach here as a single person,
At
and
1,000,
and God has designed that you reach here,
10,000.
yeah, then you'll just keep on being here as a single person, and you'll keep on being frustrated because your calling is to get married.
Yeah.
Now, with the proper tools, then marriage will become, you'll have a vibrant marriage.
Yeah.
But without the proper tools, then you'll be that person that Paul talks about in 1 Corinthians 7:28. You'll have many troubles.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dude, that's crazy, man.
So it's crazy and it's interesting because Paul calls it a mystery. Now, a mystery cannot be understood. It can only be revealed. And so your primary relationship with God is important. It is sacrosanct. You shouldn't be thinking about marriage if you've not even thought about developing a healthy relationship with God. Because then, if His word is embedded in you, then you will know for a fact that you're making the right choice. You're making the right choice. You're on the right track. You're getting married to the right person for the right reasons. You're not marrying somebody's wallet, and you're not marrying someone's body.
Right.
You're marrying the whole person. Yeah.
All right. So, Pastor. So there's this thing in my generation where we are like, And especially it's like with women, you see a lot like where the man should be paying the bills, the woman should be, doing this or not do anything. What do you think about those things? Because it's a very big topic right now. Like, what role should who be playing in marriage?
Gender roles.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. Yeah, it's a hot and huge topic right now.
Mm-hmm.
What is interesting is that the argument is lost in the nuances.
Mm.
Uh, you find that ladies would want um, a man who is traditional in the sense that who is full of chivalry and so on and treats them like a gentleman and so on.
Mm-hmm.
But then they wouldn't want to subscribe to the traditional woman.
Mm.
And the same is true also for the men.
Yeah.
They want a traditional woman,
Mm-hmm.
but they don't want to be traditional themselves.
Mm.
And so, my view is this: is that both of you need to sit down
Mm-hmm.
and first of all acknowledge the fact that we are living in a postmodern world.
Yeah.
We have evolved. We are constantly going through an evolution, and it's actually a global cultural, social, economic revolution.
Mm-hmm.
And so the world as we knew it then is not the world that we are living in now. And in the next 10 years, things are going to become different.
Mm-hmm.
And so we need to sit down and prescribe and look at the reality that we have right now
Yeah.
and say, how are we going to build our marriage? How do we want to define it?
Yeah.
And so we are having cases where the stay-at-home dad is becoming a reality.
Mm-hmm.
That people want to become stay-at-home dads. And people call them simps and so on.
Yeah.
I don't see anything wrong with that as long as it works for both of you. If it's a dynamic that works for both of you, then by all means go for it.
Yeah.
And as long as you as a woman are not going to disrespect your man,
Mm-hmm.
or you, the man, will not have an inferior sense of self-worth, it's not bad.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, is our dynamic working? Because my understanding is that, number one, the women, you need to be feminine. It's important to be feminine and not to be too abrasive or too strong or too combative for your man. It's not good to be that. And for you, the man, you can be strong without being domineering, without being unreasonably assertive. And you don't have to be to raise your voice and things like that.
Right, for her to hear you.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not even a question of who pays the bills or who takes out the laundry or who does the dishes.
Yeah.
What dynamic works for you? Define it.
Okay.
And even after defining it, maybe in a few years you may need to revise it,
Okay.
because we are constantly changing. In every 5 to 7 years, you're becoming a different person. I'm not the same person I was 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Man, we're doing so good. We're doing so good. I wanted to ask. I'm asking about things that are kind of happening in our generation too, because
Yeah.
I need some wisdom from somebody who's an expert. So there's this thing about cheating. You getting married because first of all, like I'm thinking, why do I need to cheat? Like, why do I need to be married if I know I'm gonna cheat, right?
Yeah.
But I know that there are different ways of cheating. Like I don't have to be having sex with somebody else to be cheating. And there's I've heard of like emotional like cheating and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Can you talk about those things that people should be looking like, there's people should be aware of in marriage, that you don't have to just cheat a certain way by having sex with somebody else. There are different ways.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
The definition, I'm glad you asked that, because the definition of cheating is evolving as we're speaking right now. It's continuously expanding. And it's hard to really you see, back in the day, it was just simply you go and sleeping with someone else. Right now, we have technology that has been introduced,
Social media.
Yes. And then there's the aspect of flirting. And so it's hard even to draw the line.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, again, if you're a Christian, the Bible talks about a hint of sexual immorality. Ephesians 5:3. So if I am involved in anything that is deemed to look like a hint of sexual immorality, or a hint of breach of trust, then that in itself is cheating. So what am I, if I'm doing anything that I know for a fact is going to cause pain, is going to make my partner feel some type of way, that is cheating. We've heard of people who have ladies who have office husbands.
Yeah, by the way, and they make that as a joke too.
Exactly. This is my office husband, or this is my church husband.
Yeah.
So you have a husband at home who pays the bills and gives you kids.
Yeah.
But then there's this guy
At church
who understands you, who
he just
you
gets
talk
me.
to, and
Yeah.
who feels you and you confide in, and so on and so forth. So it starts off as something platonic, and after some time it may evolve into something else. Yeah, there are times when it doesn't go sexual, but many times it does get sexual.
Yeah, because you're giving you're opening that room,
Exactly.
that door for that.
And even with men, your wife probably is denying you sex, or for some reason you're having sex at home, but there's this lady you're involved with. Men like saying that you want to get something extra, or some flavor, some spice. There's this talk nowadays that men are inherently polygamous, and so we have been designed to spread our seed, and so men are not naturally monogamous. So it's an argument being floated right now, but I don't think it's incorrect. I think it's a question about control, self-control. Everything has been prescribed or has been designed to live within a prescribed boundary. And anytime you violate that boundary, you cause pain. You cause injury. There are going to be consequences.
Yeah.
And so when I make a vow and a commitment to you, then I need to adhere to that. And if I know for a fact that I'm incapable of doing that, and then I should be upfront.
Yeah.
So I would respect a man who would be open and to tell his woman, I'm not monogamous. I feel like I'm polygamous. And so even as I commit to you, I want you to know that there are going to be 2-3 other women out there.
Crazy.
I'd respect such a guy.
Yeah.
I'd respect a woman who says, I cannot be satisfied just by one man. I want to be in a polyandrous or polygamy, or there's a new polyamory or something. I'd respect a woman. I don't agree with that, but I'd respect you if you're upfront.
Yeah.
As opposed to committing to the defined traditional marriage, one man, one woman, and then going behind your back and developing an unhealthy relationship with someone else. So cheating and infidelity can move from flirting, sexting, emotional affairs. There are people who cheat with objects,
that's a very popular thing.
Sex
right now.
toys, pornography. Because now someone would tell his spouse, "Well, I'm not sleeping with someone else, but I'm watching porn." And so, again, I know of couples who don't mind if their partner is watching porn, or couples watch pornography together.
Yeah.
But some partners would feel violated, Some partners are okay with their other partners having sex toys.
Yeah.
Others would feel like, no, sex toys is just like you cheating.
Yeah.
There are people who cheat with objects in terms of, I know of somebody here in the States who got married to a car,
Yeah.
There are people who cheat with animals. So it's really wide. And as I was saying, the definition of infidelity is expanding.
Right.
Just like I'm predicting, even the definition of marriage will also change very soon.
Wow.
We are no longer going to be having, which is a sad reality, but marriage is actually going to become a contract that is going to be renewable.
Wow.
So I'm getting married to you for the next 2 years, 1 year, with an option, with an option clause of renewal.
Choosing to extend. Yeah.
Subject to
Wow.
your performance.
Man, that's what a world.
Terms and conditions applied. We are headed there.
Wow.
And so because guys are comfortable walking in and walking out just the way they want.
Especially with our generation, we really don't care. I'll be with you today, and then tomorrow I'll go be with somebody else.
And for flimsy reasons, I can just divorce you because I don't feel you anymore.
Yeah. Man, and I think that's why you're talking about those premarital classes, and I think they're very important because when I go through them, I can just like, man, I don't want to waste my time with it because I realize like maybe that's just not me.
It's
Instead
true.
of
It's very, very, and that is why you shouldn't get married in the traditional sense if you know for a fact that you don't subscribe to those ideals and those values. And so what we do that even before we get married, before we begin the class, there are 50 questions that you need to answer. 50 very pivotal questions that you answer. Then we begin the classes.
Yeah.
And so the process is to really help you dig deep and ask yourself, do I understand what I'm getting into? And is this what I really want for the rest of my natural life? Or am I just here for the game? Am I here to collect a paycheck? Or am I here to satisfy my lust?
For a good time, not a long time.
Yep. Some people get married just for lust.
Yeah.
And you find that somebody can abstain and then just get married to have guilt-free sex.
Wow.
Then you get married and you discover that sex consists of less than 2% of your marriage. So what happens to the 98%?
Right, and that's a bigger chunk.
Exactly. And so the interesting thing about sex is that it's 2%, but it affects the other 98%. But if the other 98% is not working, then it will affect the 2%.
Yeah.
So they go hand in hand.
Wow.
Yeah.
Before you start getting into infidelity, you probably, it can be caused by you hanging out with people who are around you. I wanted to ask, like, so I'm married and I have people who are around the same age as me, but they're single. How do I deal with people who are single, especially even females? Like for me as a guy, and you could also answer the other way for ladies too, dealing with guys who are single. How do you transition? Because I don't think marriage is not like, I'm not gonna get married today and be like, oh guys, I'm married. We need to start acting different. Just treat me differently. Like how do I manage or deal with my friends who are single, especially of the opposite gender?
Again, it's important to understand that infidelity is a complex monster. It's a complex universe. I used to think that infidelity is just okay. I'll say this. I'll make these two statements, which are contradictory. Infidelity is a choice, but infidelity is not just a choice. Sometimes it's more than that, just that. And so I came to this realization when I wrote my book called Infidelicious. And in this book, I explore different stories. Some of them are real and some of them are fictitious stories of infidelity. And you find that there are people who genuinely do not want to cheat, but they are genuinely struggling with infidelity. So it can stem from something that is generational. Something that is locked up within your genetic makeup.
That's crazy.
That gives you a compulsion to indiscretion. And so you really want to get out of this.
Yeah.
But you keep finding yourself being drawn into this vice.
Yeah.
And so it's a struggle. Then there are other people in my research, because I did a research with a friend of mine back in Kenya in 2014, 2015. And the results were shocking.
Yeah.
We interviewed over 7,500 respondents. And you discover that people cheat for a myriad of reasons. Other people cheat for money. Other people get assaulted at a certain age. And so they introduce, because you see, sex is more than just two people sleeping together.
Yeah.
It's something spiritual, something happening. It's a transaction.
Yeah.
And so you find that when some people get introduced early to sex before marriage, or even get assaulted, and they do not get to deal with that traumatic experience, they develop a certain compulsion, a certain spirit of lust to gravitate towards infidelity.
Yeah.
And so that may need to be dealt with in therapy and in prayer and be addressed. And so these are some of the skeletons that we talk about when it comes to premarital counseling.
Yeah.
Because then when you get married, you need to understand there needs to be a clear-cut, complete distinction in the way you relate to members of the opposite gender. Because I cannot be a married bachelor or a married spinster. I'm a married woman, I'm a married man.
Right.
Simple and period. So meaning You can still have your female friends, but they cannot be calling you at 2 p.m. and you're chatting at 2 a.m. To chat for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can imagine you waking up to go to the bathroom and your wife is chatting with this other guy in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
And just saying, "Hi, honey."
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're saying, oh, that report at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
No,
What report? Talk
no,
about
no,
it
no,
at 6
no.
a.m.
Yeah, so there needs to be a clear-cut distinction,
Mm-hmm.
in the way you relate with each other. That way, you build your trust and you have a healthy relationship.
Yeah.
And of course, are you going to offend other people? Yes.
Yeah.
You will offend them. There's this question where people say that, what happens to those platonic relationships? I have a best friend who is a lady, and I'm in love with you, but I can't do it with my best friend.
What?
Yeah,
But it's just real though. Yeah.
you need to define that best relationship, because what I tend to see happening, it doesn't happen in all situations, but what I tend to see is that the times when you have a conflict with your wife, with your spouse, what happens?
You go to your best friend.
Because they understand you.
Yeah. Oh, no,
It's
yeah,
the way they
get
feel
me.
you.
Yeah.
And those are the moments when you become vulnerable. And it's in those vulnerable moments that you can sleep with somebody very, very easily.
Wow. And would you say that when you're vulnerable, you start acting in emotions, like you're more emotional?
Yeah, when you're vulnerable, your
Yeah.
guard is down. You're not thinking with your head. You're being drawn by your emotions. And you see, your emotions have a very strong magnetic pull. And there's the way that this person knows you. They know how to push your buttons and so on. And
Yeah.
it's very, 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 very dangerous. So you need to define, and in some cases, if your spouse is uncomfortable with your best friend, you may need to cut them loose, or make your choice.
Yeah.
During dating, if you have this best person and your fiance or boyfriend or girlfriend doesn't like this person, and you think like they're being unreasonable, then dump your fiance, continue hanging out with your best friend. Yeah, and hope that when he or she gets married, they'll still hang around with you.
Oh man,
But
it's probably not gonna be the same.
It complicates issues. Yeah.
Wow, man, that's crazy. Cause nowadays, I think that's a thing. Like people, I've known them since I was like 10. Like they're my best friend, but I've known you for so I can't just let them go because
and we're not saying you let them go.
Yeah,
but just redefine it. Let there be a healthy distance.
Okay.
You can still invite them over. But you can't be going to visit them every other weekend. You can't be going out with them on coffee dates.
Yeah.
Exclusively. On their birthday, you're just there celebrating them and so on.
You're the one planning the whole thing.
Yeah, planning the whole thing.
Yeah.
How would you feel if your spouse was doing that?
Oh, man. Yeah, I'd probably be pissed. Like, look at Jerry. We're going to do Jerry's thing. We're doing this. I'm like, why? Let the other people do that.
Let other people do that. Let us be part of the group, not just exclusive.
Yeah. And then I wanted to ask you, how do you keep like a marriage interesting? Because I know there's going to be good times and bad times, but like being married, I'm thinking, let's go 10 years, 20 years in. Like, I'm like, I see this person like every day. How do we make sure that we are still having fun? Or is that just normal? Do people just,
still having fun? Well, I might talk about acid, or do you want us to talk about that next week?
That's the next.
Yeah. So when we meet next week, we'll talk about acid, and I'll discuss about awareness, considerate, intentional, and being deliberate. But basically, it's just being creative. Being creative on the fly and avoiding routine.
Okay, so avoid routine.
Avoiding routine, and part of keeping it interesting is learning to use these 6 words liberally.
Liberally.
I'm sorry. I forgive you. Do you know couples fear those words?
Wow.
I am sorry. Just say that and let me see. Let's practice, yeah?
It's not even coming out, but you said something about sorry. I have to apologize.
Yes, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
And then I forgive you. Say I forgive you.
I forgive you.
That was easy, right?
Yeah.
But do you know how hard that is?
Wow. Is it because we have egos, huh? Because I feel like
how do I apologize? How do I bring myself to that place of no? I don't want to do that. But couples can forgive their children, strangers, their colleagues, but not their spouses.
Wow.
And just simply saying I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It does it breaks down so many walls. Yeah.
Oh man. And then I wanted to also ask you. I hope we're doing well. I hope everything's going great.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, how about like if we're in marriage and I'm thinking I want 3 kids, she wants 4. How do we handle that?
First and foremost, kids are a gift. They're a gift from God.
Right.
There's no telling as to whether when you get married you're going to have kids. So a proper and sound understanding about kids will enable you to know that you are temporary custodians of the children that God gives you. And so because they're a gift, God has the prerogative and the preserve of choosing to give them to you or not. And so you can have that desire.
Yeah.
But children do not define a marriage. They may add to that, but they do not define a marriage.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I remember, like my wife, when my wife has a traumatic past. She was assaulted, and her womb was damaged during the assault.
Yeah.
And so when we got married, she was telling me that I might not have to give you kids. I was like, yeah, because she was worried. Telling her, don't worry.
Yeah.
If we don't have kids, that means I just have more time to love you. Yeah.
Wow.
So the couple should agree. I mean, should say, this is my desire. But if God gives us 4, if he gives us 2, he gives us 1.
Yeah.
That's it.
Okay, so it should be kind of based on God, like what God
Based
gives
on God.
us,
And just agree.
Yeah.
For instance, the man, you see, sometimes men can become unreasonable. You can ask your wife, you can demand and say that you want 5 kids.
Yeah.
But you see, it's dependent on several factors. Her health. She's the one carrying those babies for 9 months. And some pregnancies can be crazy. You're talking from acne to baby fat to mood swings, being on bed rest. I mean, cravings and other impulses, hormonal imbalances. It can be crazy.
Yeah.
The other pregnancies that are drama-free during the gestative period, but you do not gestate as a man.
Yeah.
You're just a seed carrier. And then again, finances. Raising a child in this day and age is expensive. So you need to bring all those factors into consideration and don't just leave everything to chance and say, what do we want? What culture do we want?
Yeah.
What is sustainable? What is manageable for us, given our lifestyle and given where we are going as a family?
Yeah.
But don't just be insistent on what you want. Yeah.
Those things, I feel like they can lead into arguments, especially if you're in the mood of, and I'm like, I want 4 kids, she wants 3. How do you deal with argument? Not even just on that topic, but like, how should couples deal with argument in the first place?
What I call wrestling in love. Have rules of engagement. Even when 2 countries are going to war, there's the Geneva Convention that countries have subscribed to of how they're going to fight in battle.
Yeah.
One of them is you treat prisoners of war with decency and respect, and you don't kill women and children and the sick one and the sick people and the guys who are old. You only kill combat soldiers. And so even in marriage, even in conflict, when it comes to conflict in marriage, you need to have rules of engagement. How are we going to have a difference of opinion and allow that not to degenerate into another war? First of all, we're on the same team, meaning no one wins an argument.
Yeah.
If any one of you wins an argument, then both of you have lost.
Wow.
So it means the marriage is going to hemorrhage. Then, secondly, we are not going to shout. Nobody's going to raise a voice.
Yeah.
No insults. Because when you're shouting, when you're shouting at somebody, what does that signify?
You're trying to get their attention?
Exactly, because they're far away, right? So if you're in the same room and you're shouting, what does that mean?
Yeah, there's distance.
There's distance.
Yeah.
So that means you need to bridge the gap and you stop shouting. So you don't shout. When you shout, you raise your anger temperatures go up, and what happens? You lose at least half of your reasoning faculties, which is not good.
Because then you start thinking emotionally.
Yes, and irrationally.
Yeah, irrationally. Okay.
And then no insults.
Yeah.
No cuss words. You don't have a foolish and a stupid persons. Just avoid it completely. Stick to the issue. avoid moving around in circles, and avoid fishing. Avoid going back to 1993
man,
at 3 p.m. when you
'Cause
put
then-
on that yellow shirt. I remember avoid that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So sit down and have these rules of engagement before the conflict, because sometimes what happens is that couples are trying to come up with those rules right in the thick of things, and it doesn't work.
Recipe
So
for
have those
disaster.
rules, agree on them, and guess what? Even after you've agreed on them, you're going to break them. But that's a good thing, because after you break them,
You're going to work on fixing.
yes, now when you resolve your issue, you're going to go back and say, by the way, so now I remember we had agreed on this, and this is what happened.
Right.
So what can we do? How can we learn from this thing? Then lastly, separate the issue from your spouse. My spouse is not a bad person. My spouse is a good person who has done a bad thing.
Right.
Many times when your spouse has done something wrong, you attach the thing to that person and make them look bad.
Yeah, you're so dumb. Like, why don't you see
Yeah.
that? Yeah, you make it about them.
Exactly. When you say and this is what I tell couples: when you tell your spouse you're so dumb, the two of you are one. Now, what does that say about you?
That I'm dumb too.
Yeah, you're dumb too. And then what does that tell you about your choices?
They're gonna be dumb, stupid choices, or that I make dumb choices.
You chose a dumb person. That means who's the bigger dumber? Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, okay. I feel like I'm in class. I feel like I'm really learning. You're making me sweat. I don't usually sweat like this.
It's good, but you sweat.
Yeah.
You better sweat right now.
Right. I like
than
that.
in marriage. Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like this is my premarital, but we'll talk about that so I can get
Okay.
more on that.
Yeah.
But how do you also ensure that as an individual you're still growing in marriage? So it's not like I'm married now. We're gonna become one.
Yeah.
But as an individual, how do I make sure that I'm still becoming the best part of me, or becoming what God really created me to be?
Yeah. That's crucial, because then marriage can't rob you of yourself. If you become too invested in the marriage and in your spouse, and you forget to grow as a person, what that will in turn become, it will become a detriment in your relationship. So first and foremost, you need to read books, ensure that you have hobbies, get something that you're passionate about, and build yourself. Because remember when Jesus said, love your partner, love your neighbor the way you love yourself?
Yeah.
So part of being a good partner is self-care and self-love. If you cannot love your partner and love yourself in a healthy way, because again, if it goes to the extreme, what happens? You become selfish.
Yeah.
You become eccentric and
Everything's about-
egocentric.
yes.
Yeah. So you want it to be healthy and balanced, so that you can pour out that love to your partner from a healthy space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm pretty sure it's probably different for other people, but I wanted to ask, what is the most difficult thing in marriage? Is there like one thing that is like, oh, this one is hard, but
No, I don't think you can say there's one thing, because different couples will struggle with different things. But I'll take it back to just that one monster, self.
yeah.
That's the biggest thing to kill or destroy. Because you see, tell me one person that you've lived with for your entire life that you know so well.
Just me.
Just you, right? And who is that person that you love so well more than anyone else?
Myself.
Exactly. So I'm challenging you to get rid of that person. That's not easy.
Yeah. That's what I was saying. Dying to self or dying to, and like, what do you mean?
It's not easy.
Yeah.
It's very, very, it's painful. It may seem unfair, but that is the greatest challenge, self. If that monster can be annihilated at the foot of the cross, so that Christ can have the supremacy and the preeminence and the sovereignty in your life, then you'll have a vibrant marriage. But if the two of you see, Christ cannot be competing with you at the throne of your marriage. He can't.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's too lofty for that.
Right.
That's being too petty. But when you die to self, now he comes
It's
in.
like, I'm all in. I'm all
Yeah,
in. Okay.
yeah.
And I've heard this thing, and we kind of mentioned it a little bit in the beginning of this podcast, where like the first 2 years of marriage, I've heard that from so many people, is usually the hardest. Do you believe in that? And if so, how what would you tell people who are getting married about those 2 years, the first 2 years?
It will be the hardest marriage. It will be the hardest for you if, number one, you've not dealt with the skeletons, and if the person doing the premarital counseling did not know what they're doing, and if they knew what they were doing and they taught you well, if you fail to apply those things. Because this is what I found out, that sometimes couples will get to premarital counseling and do it as a stage, one of the stages for the wedding. So because in our church we have this philosophy, blah, 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 somebody's going to do it. And then you get to that place, you do it. We are done with, it's a check. So it's like a cert that you hang on the wall. Like, yay, I've gone through premarital counseling. And then put it there. It gathers dust. No. This is a tool that you've been given. You've been equipped that you need to practice every single day. So if you didn't get premarital counseling, or if you got poor premarital counseling, or if you got good premarital counseling and you're not applying them, then you will struggle those first 3 years.
So, but if you apply those, what you've learned, you
will cruise. Now, it doesn't mean that you're not going to have challenges.
Right,
challenges will come, but when the challenges come, it becomes a learning, a practicing experience. And as you practice, you learn, you grow, you become better. Just like driving. You first go to driving school. Can you remember your first time to sit behind the wheels? How are you feeling?
I was scared, man. I was scared. With their turns, like I was I end up in the other lane.
Exactly. But then what happens with time?
You get better.
You make mistakes, but then with time now you know. You have those clause codes, you learn. If I do this, if I don't follow the rules, I'm going to get a ticket. I'm going to cause infractions. But you become better, proficient with time. The same is true with marriage and anything else.
Even with this podcast, like I don't usually speak in front of people, in front of cameras, and I think with time, like I'll just continue to get better. You get the groove and the hang of it. The same is true with marriage. Okay.
So you learn on the job. The premarital should take care of most of the things. That's the main thing. And even if I'm to speak to parents, premarital should be the icing on the cake. The real premarital counseling begins at home. Because then the children learn the marital dynamic within the context of a family. The way mommy and daddy relate with one another. So I become I'm a very intentional parent, because then I'm not just raising daughters. I'm raising future wives. I'm raising future spouses. I'm raising future mothers of my children. So they are seeing the way I relate with their mother, and they're getting a glimpse of what it means to be under a man who is submitted under Christ. A man who is dying to self. What does it mean to apologize? I even apologize to them.
So they see it.
They see it. It's not just, they don't just see me on the pulpit or on YouTube or something doing something. No. They see it on a day-to-day basis. So now, my desire is that by the time, I hope I'm going to be the one who will do the premarital counseling. Tehil and Toda, speaking to you. By the time they're getting the premarital counseling, everything will crystallize. It's going to make sense. And now that's going to be the cementing glue.
Because it doesn't seem so far-fetched, because if your parents never apologize to each other and you're in premarital counseling and you're hearing you need to apologize, you don't have anything to relate that to. You're
Correct.
Like, apologize. My dad used to just say something, and then even if he was a pastor, he would just preach the next day like nothing happened. So I think that's very key.
If you've grown up around dysfunction, then even some of the things that we're going to tell you about premarital are really going to like, so how do I bring this? It's going to be hard. You've not seen your mom walk in submission. You've not seen your dad practice out love. It's going to become a real challenge. But when you see that dynamic being lived out, then it begins to make sense. It becomes a tangible reality.
And do you also teach about, if you come from dysfunctional families, do you also teach people how to also apply those premarital counseling in a way that they can understand, even if they didn't see that in their parents?
That's now where acid comes in.
Oh, okay. And then we don't want to talk about acid too much. That's on the next episode that we're going to be talking about. before we wind up, I want to ask you. This is just a funny question to close out the session. It's something that's going on online right now. But should couples be sleeping at the same time, or should I go to? You know what I mean? Should I leave?
God.
Yeah, it's a very funny big debate that's going on right now.
Yeah. That's interesting because even my wife and I have struggled with that because my wife is a night owl. I call her abnormal. You know, she's a night owl. I don't know if she's watching. Honey. Yeah, and I'm pretty much I sleep early so that I can wake up early.
Yeah,
my wife sleeps late so that she sleeps in. In fact, she wakes up in installments. You know, she opens one eye, closes, and opens the other one. Yeah. So again, define your marital dynamics and don't be stuck on this is me. I like sleeping early, but there are certain instances, like my wife runs a shelter back in Kenya for girls that have been sexually assaulted. And so part of her work involves her working late at night. And sometimes you need to consult on something or she need help in a particular project.
Yeah.
And so what does that mean? I need to sacrifice my sweet sleep and work with her or give her the answers that she wants. Or sometimes she wants to vent.
Yeah.
She wants to talk about the color scheme of the kitchen. Is it malachite or burgundy? We're going to, and I'm thinking, oh my god, is it urgent? Can't it wait? But you see, that's when her juices are flowing. So there are times when I'll need to sacrifice that and listen to what I call her software issues. And then there are times when she'll need just to understand, let my man rest. In as much as I can't sleep or I find this thing, let me just understand this is me and this is my cross. And similarly, even for her, if she gets stuck on her guns of sleeping in late, we're not going to be intimate. Because if I'm sleeping at 9:30 or 10, and she's coming to bed at 2 or at 1, really,
you're in like REM 3 or something.
So have a healthy balance. Talk about it, but don't get stuck on this is how I've always done things. That in itself is selfish. Yeah, that doesn't sound right. That is selfish.
Yeah, no, and I think that's true because you know, and especially in marriage where you two are becoming one, so two different backgrounds, two different ways of being raised. But when you come to marriage, you have to you're starting a new thing, right?
Yeah, a new journey.
Yeah. Okay. Man, well, I'm so happy to have you. You know, a little background on how we met. So you came to Hepzibah's youth conference, but before that, somebody actually put me on what you do.
Oh, who's that?
Gladys Macharia. She put me on. She was like, "Oh, Tonny, you need to be listening to this guy." And I was like, "Oh, say less." So I followed you on Facebook, and then I would read the stories that you were posting, and then some of the advice that people were giving there, and I was like, I think you'd be a very dope person to come and talk about marriage because that's something that you do. You're an expert at that, and I'd rather have you than anyone else that talk about that. So I do appreciate you and your time, even sacrificing this early morning to come and shoot this episode.
Thank you.
Before I finish, I want you to look at that camera over there. Tell them where to find you, what kind of things that you do, so that they can reach out to you. And then we'll obviously have you, if people are commenting and whatnot, you can interact with them and feel free to share what it is that you do and help them apply what you do.
Okay. Yeah, you can find me on TonnyGobanga.com. That's my website. On social media, you can find me on all social media platforms. That is Tonny Gobanga on Instagram, on Facebook. There's a page called The Marriage Village. And then I have books that you can find on my website and courses, The Bridges and Barriers of Marriage, Beyond I Do, It's More Than Just Words. There's an ebook called Don't Marry Your Best Friend.
Wow.
Yeah, there's a book on sex called Romantidemics, which is actually a course and a class that we teach couples on how to spice their bedroom. 10 sessions, and you can get the ebook on Amazon. Don't Marry Your Best Friend is also on Amazon. And then there's Infidelity. There's The Bridges and Barriers of Marriage based on the book of Ephesians. Rubies in the Rubble, Leadership on the Real. All those you can find on my website, TonnyGobanga.com. So for any other thing, you can send me an email on info@themarriagevillage.com. info@themarriagevillage.com. And yeah.
Wow, man, like I told you guys, I said the guy was loaded. You see all those things that he's doing? I got a podcast studio. It's up there, but it's not as much as him. So I hope you guys have been able to pick something from this podcast. I've been able to grab something from Tony. I'm definitely gonna watch this and actually take notes. I always say that like on most. At the end of the most podcasts, but it's true. On this one, I'm gonna, cause I'm in that stage where I'm about to get married, so I'm definitely gonna apply what you've said. There's a lot. I felt like I was in class, like I said when I was talking to you. It was supposed to be like a, Q&A and what, but I'm gonna apply the things that you've talked about, cause I do think that. I want to give my spouse the best of me. You know what I mean? So I'm definitely going to be applying those. And if you guys want to see him again, I'm sure next time he's going to send us a very hefty invoice. Let us know in the comments, and especially the things that you want him to talk about and the information that he's giving you. Please check him out. And until next time, peace.